For more than 10,000 years of human civilization, racism, discrimination, oppression, and wanton cruelty to those you disagreed with was the accepted way of the entire world. I hate to break it to you, but your great grandparents were probably racist. Sorry, mine too. In the clock of human history, it was only about 30 seconds ago that racism equals bad was even a consideration. The colonists were products of that world, that old way of thinking. Somewhere along the line, they threw off those old ideas in favor of new ones, the ones that today have lifted most of the population of the planet out of oppression. You have to remember that none of the ideas, and not a single one of the ideas that we cherish today as American or Western principles, existed at the time of the founding of the British colonies. Principles like individual liberty, natural rights, equality under the law, freedom of worship, and governments empowered by people. And not only did none of those exist in practice at the time, but most of them had never existed, never been tried, or even considered. Today, those ideas feel so completely normal and matter of fact to us that we take them for granted, like they've always been there and always will be. But in the time of the British colonies, just a meager 200 to 300 years ago, they were decidedly unnatural ideas. So, how long might it take for such unnatural ideas to take hold? How long does it take for a person to throw off the way of thinking that was ingrained in them from birth and embrace a new way of thinking? Have you ever done it? Have you ever looked at something that you were taught your whole life to believe in, taught by your parents, your grandparents, your racist great-grandparents, your teachers, government officials, religious leaders, everyone you look up to, the media, all the advertisements you see every day, billboards, the music you listen to, everything?
Everything that exists.
Have you ever taken what literally everything in your society is telling you to believe and said,
Pshaw! Pshaw!
No, of course you haven't, because you're not as funny as Andy Samberg. And also, maybe more importantly, because it takes many generations to change the accepted norms of a society, not to mention to get an entire country to do it. That brings us back to the original question. When did Americans become sufficiently separated from 10,000 years of human tradition and ideas? And more precisely, from European tradition and ideas? Once we answer that, the next logical question becomes, after they were sufficiently separated, when did they also then have the ability, not just the willingness or the desire, but the ability to establish new traditions and ideas, ones that eschew long accepted and practiced human evils, like slavery? Because that would be the point when it becomes possible to hold Americans responsible as Americans for perpetuating those evils. So when we talk about the founding of the United States, this is an intellectual debate that's worth having. As you watch the video lessons and read the posts throughout this school year, really all I want you to do is to be open enough to ask challenging questions and be courageous enough to examine the answers to them honestly. So chew on that question for a while, leave your impressions and ideas in the comments, and I'll post my thoughts later on the answer.